Welcome to the fourth episode in Automating Photoshop with Actions. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about modifying actions because there's a bit of weirdness to it. When the step that you want to modify is a filter setting, it's straightforward. Just double click on the step and change the settings and they'll change in your action. When the step does not involve a filter setting, things get a little weirder when it comes to changing action settings. And so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. Let's go ahead, let's create a new action step. Bring up the Layer Styles palette again. Let's go back to having this be overlay. Let's set the opacity to 100% and the fill up to 100%, and we save it. If you look down here now, we have a layer. The opacity is 100%. The mode is overlay. The fill up is 100%. Those were the settings that we just adjusted. You'll notice none of the other settings off that Layer Style palette show up here. That gives you a hint as to the weirdness that's to come. Let's go ahead now and let's make a change to these settings. In order to do that, I'm going to turn off the recording. There we go. And now let's double click on this step. Let's change these settings. Let's change the blend mode from overlay to soft light. For our film grain effect, that's going to go ahead. For our film grain effect, that's going to reduce the visual impact of the noise. When we make this change, what's going to happen is this. Boom. The only thing we see here now is the soft light blend. Everything about the opacity setting is forgotten. Everything about the fill setting is forgotten. The only setting that was paid attention to was the one that we changed, soft light. What that tells you is that when the step that you're changing in an action does not involve a filter setting, the only thing that gets recorded are the changes that you make. If you don't change a setting, it's not going to be reflected when that step is recorded. So what if we want to have soft light and we want to have the layer opacity be set to 85% and we still want to use this same step? How do we go about doing that? The first thing that we have to do is we're going to have to change from soft light to something else. We can set whatever we want to set it to. Hard light, normal, whatever. Just pick something other than soft light. Doesn't matter what it is. We just need to be able to make the change at the same time that we're changing the opacity. We got to get all of the settings that we want to make at one time for this. So I'm going to temporarily set it to hard light. You can see that here. You can see now that the grain stands out a lot more. Now in order to make this soft light and to set the opacity to something like 85%, we can now go up here, change this from hard light to soft light, and at the same time, change the opacity to something like 85%. Now if we click OK, both of those changes are reflected here. Making changes to steps that do not involve filter settings is one of the clunkiest parts of working with Photoshop Actions. But working with actions is so useful, this is just something that you're going to have to keep in mind. When you want to modify an action step that does not involve a filter setting, you want to be certain to set all of the settings at the same time because Photoshop's only going to record the settings that you modify. And remember, these changes have only been made in Photoshop's memory cache. In order to make them permanent, you have to click on the action set, go up and select the menu option for Save Actions, and then actually resave your action set again, that ATN file, to make the changes permanent. I'm Glenn Mitchell from thelightsright.com. Cheers.